Thanks so much, Blaze. I tell you something, we've got front row tickets out here. We've got the boys right behind us ready to jam.
Yeah, usually they don't let me in these kind of parts of the arena. They keep me as far away as possible from the players. I'm like, well, tell me your statistics. But for once I get to see them. I can always high-five them after their games. It's going to be fun.
Well, Halo World Championship starts tomorrow, but we've got some appetizers. We've got some taste testers here, and it's going to be SSG up against JLINGZ. Both these teams battling tooth and nail to make it to Worlds tomorrow.
A great series layout that we have on our hands as well, starting off with Capture the Flag Aquarius. You would have heard them talking about it on the couches. JLINGZ have not been doing that well in scrims against Space Station, but they have not played these 5 game types. They have purposely avoided them so they can keep their secrets under wraps, so they don't have to give away anything. And I will say, I think that JLINGZ will be looking at this series layout saying we can get this done in 3, if not 4. Stronghold's live fire does feature. We saw that in Orlando when JLINGZ took down Space Station. They beat them on it, very close mind, but they know they can beat these guys on some of these game types.
And you spoke about wanting to do it in 3 or 4, and there's a reason for that as well. Slayer Recharge being game 5, and that has been a bit of a problem for them lately.
JLINGZ did not win any game on Recharge throughout Orlando. It is statistically their worst map. On the other side, Space Station, very good at Recharge. That shock rifle, you put it in any of their hands, oh my god, they are going to be frying, they are going to be taking faces. So if you're JLINGZ, get this done in 4, avoid Recharge, but if it does go to game 5, it's not the be-all and end-all. It's not a guaranteed loss. We know full well that Septic, for example, on JLINGZ, an amazing shock rifle player as well.
This is a rematch from Orlando. That game finished 3-1 in favor of JLINGZ, but it was too close for comfort. It was a 250 to 247 game on Strongholds in game 4. We could very well have gone to a game 5, and JLINGZ will not want to do that here.
And I think this is a really interesting series. We've got 4 teams that can qualify out of these 8, and I think that these 2 guys are kind of fighting for that 4th spot. When you look at who is amongst these 8 teams, this is going to mean everything. Win this one, get yourself one step closer to the Halo World Championships.
It all starts here. Win 2 series and you qualify. Lose 2 and you are going home on a whimper. Game 1 though. SSG will want to start this one nice and hot. And JLINGZ looking to do a very similar thing. It shields up, weapons hot, and we're underway.
Already underway and already aggression from the JLINGZ side. Just trying to apply a little bit of pressure on this right-hand side of the map, try and get some control. Great grenades from Quadios. They know exactly where they want to play, where they want to be controlling. That side of the sizzle sticks is where you want to be aiming for. Those flag runs are going to be very important down that side.
Speaking of flag runs, Septic, he's not one to normally pick it up on Aquarius CTF. Only 8 times overall. And a player that they're going to be looking to maybe get those flags moving is going to be Morgan.
It's great that I do all these stats and then you say them. You just take them away from me. But you are right. Septic has not really been the objective player for this team. But suddenly, he's picking up that flag. He's already got more flag grabs today than he did in Orlando. He's one of these guys that just can do a little bit of everything, right? And maybe that was something JLINGZ learned from Orlando. Were we putting too much pressure on the likes of Morga for those flag pulls?
Septic then up to stay back at home, trying to get this flag sent all the way back. He gets cleared out though, and perhaps Space Station are now knocking on the door of punching in their first flag. Drifto taken down to no shields and no longer in the equation, tapping buttons, the last man standing, but JLINGZ have a flag on the move, and Nugget getting shot in the back. Morga has to stop for a moment.
And that's more like the normal approach from JLINGZ. Morga getting those flag pulls. He had over double of any of his other teammates in Orlando, 80-odd flag grabs all in total. So he's going to be the guy getting in the face, getting those flag pulls. He won't always be the one getting the capture. Morga will put his body on the line, but now Flux, he continues to run this one home.
It was 2 dead for a moment, and it looked as though JLINGZ had everything they needed, but all of a sudden, Space Station have flipped the script, and it's 3 dead for JLINGZ. Morgan, last man standing, trying to get touch tight with the flag, putting players down to no shields, but a double kill for Nugget. His back were against the wall. Nobody was happy about the situation, Orlando. He's trying to make amends.
That's huge from Nugget. That grenade, absolutely everything, keeps that flag in a situation where they can just manage to send it back home. And unfortunately for JLINGZ, it means they have to go again. But already in game 1, Jersey, we can see how close these 2 teams are. Nothing to split the difference in the moment. Both getting flag pulls, both getting very close to a capture. How important is this first capture actually going to be?
First capture, pivotal here. Maybe will set the standard. Nugget in a 1v1 with Quadiosis, back them down somehow, but that grenade spins up into the visor of Quadiosis and will eliminate him once more. It's tit for tat at the moment. Both these teams, it's a bit cagey, they're just trying to feel each other out.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of nerves at the moment. They know what's on the line. It's the first game of the day. These guys have been out scrimming in America. I think that, you know, JLINGZ, they were out in Atlanta, actually in a LAN center, making sure that they could scrim and get underway. It's not like they're going to be completely under-practiced, but when you do arrive to the event, there's always going to be like a day or two where you just have to try and feel your way into it, and that first game's always going to be tough.
SSG then threatening to get a flag pull of their own. Nugget has it in hands, on the move. Has he got the support required though? Running over towards the closet and heading down Electric Avenue now. No players putting any damage down, but he has lost 2 teammates in the process. Our JLINGZ in a situation where they can get the stop. A kill comes through. Morgan, the Dutchman, will get that all so important pick and make it 2 as he sends that flag home. And both these teams are pulling flags, but not yet able to break the deadlock.
A lack of structure from both teams, and sometimes that does happen when you are closely contested, and when one kill can make or break sometimes a flag pool completely. This is good from the moment at JLINGZ though, recognizing they can't just run a flag, like put their head down and hope to get it across the map. You have to slay as you go. So sometimes that's simply touching the flag, slaying, touching again. It can be a slow process, but as long as you can get it across the map, doesn't matter how quick it is.
JLINGZ coming off the back of a top 16 finish at Orlando. Now Septic would love to get himself into a Worlds conversation once more. Flux positioned over on this car side. Heatwave though will absolutely fry him to a crisp. And Nugget descends on the enemy base. Quadios in a 1v1. Nugget takes care of him. That's something we're starting to see. They spoke about it to us. They wanted to try and challenge Nugget a little bit more, but he's winning them 1v1 engagements.
Yeah, Nugget is winning the 1v1s. It was something he wasn't doing in Orlando. He was targeted by both JLINGZ and Na'Vi in their games, but now, a little bit of a fumble. Could that prove to be vital here? Looks like the team is still covering him, but look how far he could have got if he hadn't have fumbled that one. Is anyone in a position to stop this from JLINGZ?
Such small margins can separate Nugget though, the coach before, but he's a player now and he punches in and breaks the deadlock, and SSG go 1-up.
A start that can really destroy confidence for JLINGZ. If they were coming into this series thinking it was going to be a cakewalk, they know full well it is not going to be now. Space Station are here to play. I love what they spoke about on the couch. These guys were underestimated at Orlando, and for good reason. Nugget didn't have the practice. It was not where they wanted to be, but now they have had time to practice, and can you really see it's paying off.
The adversity this team had to face at Orlando, replacing a teammate in the 11th hour. But now, they're starting to settle into those roles. Nugget has accepted what is required of him. And maybe with that practice, and with the scrim results that they have had, things are looking much better now than they ever have before.
And now, Space Station can slow things down a little bit. They can sit back, they can force JLINGZ to come towards them, and then when they get those slays, hit them on that counter. Try and get a pull, try and make JLINGZ uncomfortable. Because constantly we're seeing 2 players go down on both sides, no one really getting an all 4 dead. The closest we saw to it did result in a Space Station cap, as once more Atso demonstrating that he shouldn't be challenged either.
Atso's proving to be a real problem here for JLINGZ, with the help of that Heatwave, winning all those good engagements, opening up the map for his team. Flux all alone, isolated in his own base. He's got some people for company here though, as Atso, he's taking care of business once more. Tries to scamper away with the camouflage, but he's shut down on this occasion, but tapping buttons on hand. And now Quadios tries to shut him down, but he can't.
It's a double objective play there from Space Station. One goes for the flag as a distraction, the other goes for the camouflage. In the end, it's tapping buttons who's rewarded with it, but there is not going to be a flag run. But what can you do now with the camo? You've worked that hard, you've put that many distractions down, but now you have to make it count. Tapping, trying to get in a position here so he can get a flank and actually pick up some big kills.
And it's SSG who are really applying all the pressure here. JLINGZ are not where they want to be, not playing this game in the half of the map that they want to. And tapping buttons in another 1v1, and he comes out with 4 fresh shots. These boys are not playing around.
You've got to avoid tapping buttons in any individual fight. He's so talented. Of course, one of the first international players to ever get signed for a North American organization back in the day. And now he's back on a LATAM team, but it's Space Station he now represents. And he's running another flag home here for Space Station. It's going to be 2-0 unless, no, nothing there. 2-0, Space Station looking on fire.
And when we talk about tapping buttons, we always mention he traveled to North America. He was one of the first players to ever do. He trailblazed for the likes of Barcode. But is he now wanting to add an extra chapter to his story? He does not no longer want that to be the only thing that is accompanied with his name. and he's hoping to do that here by making it to another World Championship.
Yeah, he wants to be the LATAM team to get to the World Championships, right? You don't just want to be a team that got to play-ins. That is not quite the World Championships, but JLINGZ will answer back. That will give them so much confidence because at 2-0 down, it's very quick to assess the game and say, okay, we're falling behind. We need an early response here just to add a little bit of pressure onto our opposition.
That pressure's going to come because with 4 minutes on the clock now, both these teams are forced to play a little bit differently. Space Station have put themselves in the perfect spot here to take game one. But if they sit back and invite the pressure, which they're starting to do now, and Quadios racks up a double kill, starting to play a little bit slower though, backing off the two surviving members of SSG, playing it perfectly there.
Yeah, I like this from Quad. He could have got aggressive, he got the double kill, and everything in his brain would have been like, where's the triple, where's the overkill? But no, you've got to recognize the situation you're in. You've got to assess it and say, okay, well, this is the play-ins at the World Championships. I've got to try and make sure I stay alive here, do what I can. Morgan's managed to get the camouflage top middle. 3 are dead for Space Station. This could be a flag run chance.
3 dead again. Nugget alone in the fridge. It's a cold, dark place over there, but can he have an influence here to stop Flux's flag cap? Flux is down to about a burst and a half here. The shields are going to come back. 2 members go down. 3 once more. Atso not in the position to be an influence at the moment, and Flux ties us up 2-2.
Incredible comeback, really, from JLINGZ. They looked down and out at 2-0 down, but the fact they got that quick flag cap just meant they could continue to apply the pressure. Space Station turtled up a little bit in their base. They allowed JLINGZ to push up, and that flag cap was pretty much flawless. A lot of it coming from Morga, getting that camouflage as well, and just being a nuisance.
Oh, and Flux, he's starting to turn up in a big way. Killing spree already secured. 3 dead once more for SSG, and JLINGZ are just starting to turn the screw.
This is a real snowball. It is getting out of control now. Space Station need to stop this ASAP. Are they going to let this one go, or are they going to fight for it? Remember, if you try and fight a flag, you will put yourself in a position of potentially a double cap, but it's not going to happen. They do not stop it. JLINGZ suddenly have flipped the script, and they are 3-2 up.
JLINGZ with 3 unanswered flag captures after SSG had put in such good work, but all of a sudden now, clock's going to start to play a massive factor with just over 2 minutes.
And you look at the score and you look at who's been getting the kills. Quadios, 20 kills on the board at the moment. We were on his POV briefly earlier. A lot of important kills he's getting. Right at the start of the game, he wasn't necessarily into it as much, wasn't able to find these battles, but as soon as he's warmed up, he really has changed things here for JLINGZ. Quadios
then, we're on board with him now. Had such an impressive performance so far. Looking to close out game 1 here. And will they then
nice nade.
Start to answer some of the questions that were asked of them on the desk? They want to be more than just Europe's 4th team. They want to be a force to be reckoned with. And the first step is getting themselves into the World Championships. And Quadios has somehow tiptoed his way all the way back to his own closet. Flag is out for both teams here. And Drift gets that touch. He's starting to juggle it. It's going to be an engagement over towards the closet. And it's SSG who are in big trouble, but Nugget's going to flank here. This is a massive 1v1. Can Nugget survive? Yes, he can. Support's on hand. It's a brawl. It's a scramble in the closet. And somehow, some way, both flags still remain out. Return now. 1 minute remains.
Space Station threw absolutely everything at that to ensure that JLINGZ could not capture. That keeps them in the game. It means JLINGZ will not be 2 flags ahead. Now, how did JLINGZ play this? 50 seconds on the clock. Do you turtle up? Do you try and defend? A risky play sometimes because you invite the pressure, but this is Space Station's last chance to try and tie this game.
The pressure has been invited on, and SSG are RSVPing. They're coming to fight. They're heading up the shroom stairs. And JLINGZ are trying to stand strong, but Drift is behind enemy lines. 3 dead now. Morga, the Dutchman, can he get the stop? Yes, he can. And how pivotal could that kill be with tapping buttons picking up the flag?
It's a huge kill, but tapping's still going to run it. Drift's gone down. All 4 members of JLINGZ still up. The bullets are going to rain across this map. They do get the stop. Can Space Station actually chain this one home? They've got to play this one carefully.
Only 7 seconds remain. Can they get the flag touch? Nugget is forced to back down, and the kills have come through. And Morga, with that important surgical kill, ensures JLINGZ draw first blood.
JLINGZ ensuring they come back from a 2-0 deficit to suddenly get 3 back-to-back flags and demonstrate why they are more than just the other team in Europe. And we've got to remember that, Europe, a very competitive region. It wasn't easy for these guys to get this position, to get this spot. You got to imagine Quadrant sat at home watching this. Quadrant, one of the best performing teams, top 8 in Kansas City. And unfortunately, they've got to watch from home and watch these play-ins happen, but they should be cheering on a team like JLINGZ. Of course, Europe quite often does support one another, and JLINGZ showing what they're made of there in map number 1.
Well, it looked as though it was going according to script for SSG. We've seen scrim results, things were starting to look up. They were taking down the likes of JLINGZ, but all of a sudden, Morga, Quadios, they found the form and they found the answer.
It's all well and good winning an online scrim in the game types that you're not going to be playing, but sometimes the better game types are going to appear in a series layout, and that might be the case for JLINGZ. Maybe they looked at the series layout and the scrims and they said, oh, actually, it's good because our best game types are going to feature. We don't need to practice them anyway. And I think that JLINGZ is going to be delighted with that opening. As we go into game number 2, Slayer Catalyst, it goes to bad news here for Space Station because they did not win a single Catalyst game throughout Orlando. It was one of their worst maps. So now, if JLINGZ have done their research, and I know that Morga's brother, Morga the Second, as I like to call him, but Morga 12, as he's officially titled, he will be doing his research. He will know Space Station a week on this one, so you have to make it count. You have to pummel them into the ground here in map number 2.
Also, you're supposed to allow me to steal the stat before you fire it out immediately. I've seen what you've done there. I'm not exactly a fan of it, but Slayer Catalyst is up next, Dan. And for SSG, they know that they have been struggling really hard on Catalyst. What can they do to turn the tide here?
Well, I think individually, actually, they had a lot of successful fights throughout that first map. Like, it's very different to the Space Station we saw in Orlando, where Nugget didn't look particularly confident, where Drift and Tapping will have to kind of carry the team through. Atso was playing individually very successful in that first game as well. They all looked on point, but unfortunately, it just seemed like when it kind of snowballed out of control, they weren't able to wrestle back control of the map. They need to stay ahead in Catalyst Slayer. They need to make sure they're the ones who are on top. That seems like when they're most comfortable. If, however, they do throw away a lead, I think that's when we're going to see this team start to suffer. It seems like they're not necessarily a side who are very good at coming from behind.
Was it a situation where they got those 2 flag caps and where probably the call came to hold what we have here with 5 minutes on the clock? They probably thought, listen, we've shut out JLINGZ for so long that we can simply do it again, and that opened up the map then for JLINGZ to take control.
I think so, and I think it was very important that JLINGZ were able to get that 1 flag capture so quickly.
Yeah.
If we had gone a minute or 2 by and they had successfully held them off, then JLINGZ would have started panicking. They would have maybe taken a few more risks. It might not have worked out for them, but because they got that flag so quickly, it meant the Space Station was just like, oh my god, how did we not hold on to it? Wait, who's there? Oh, he's taking another flag, and they were lost.
Yeah.
They were so confused about where to go. It was the perfect answer from JLINGZ, and then once they had that control, JLINGZ just like woke up. It's like they remembered how to play the game type again.
So the perfect start for JLINGZ, who, listen, they finished top 16 in Orlando, so by all rights, they are a top 16 team and deserve to be in the World Championships. But for SSG, they found themselves going down, and they really want to be a team that can represent their region. They're the best team in LATAM, but it's the 4th seed of the EU team that have given them some real trouble here.
I mean, you look at Space Station historically throughout this season, and they've had a lot of different iterations. The organization went to pick up the best LATAM team.
Yep.
Unfortunately, of course, there was the issues with Pelogods, so now they have Nugget. Is this team as strong as it was? I mean, I guess we'll find out during these play-ins, but you want to be at the World Championships. You don't just want to be the team that didn't quite get there, but you were at the play-ins, you were kind of at the World Championships. So you need to knuckle down now. Yes, you can have several opportunities here. You win twice, you're through. You lose twice, you're out. So it's not the end of the world if you are going to lose here. I know Space Station can make it, right? You've got, for me, I've got 5 teams who I think could make it through, and this is going to be the closest competitors we're going to see for that 4th spot right now. You have to win a Catalyst Slayer. You have to make sure you win one of your worst maps to say to the other team, we are better than we were at Orlando.
And it's going to be one of those situations, right, where you think we've come so far in this season, we've been consistently finishing top 16 at most of the majors, and then you get to the biggest one of them all, and if they manage to not qualify here, how heartbreaking can that be? And maybe they're already mentally thinking about that after going down game 1.
It is heartbreaking, especially when you've traveled all this way. You know, you're kind of at the World Championships, but you're not really at the World Championships. They start tomorrow. No one's going to remember the 4 teams who don't qualify for Worlds tomorrow, right? They're going to remember the 4 teams that get into pools that will be playing in Friday's competition when the World Championships actually begin. So you need to make sure you can focus on things now, just forget game 1 and push on to map number 2.
And on the other side of things, JLINGZ, everything's going according to plan, following the script for them. They fancied their chances here up against SSG, and with Quadios playing so well, we've seen Flux getting those killing sprees. As they get confident, they're a really dangerous team to try and stop.
Yeah, I think JLINGZ are going to enjoy this map number 2. They're a team that when they have a little bit more freedom and they know their opponents are retreating and a little bit scared, they will get aggressive in those right areas. They will take those challenges. These are 4 very confident individuals in their own ability. And you've got to remember that we didn't really see much of JLINGZ at Orlando. They weren't on the main stage. They didn't feature actually that much even on the secondary stream. This is really the first time we're seeing Flux on JLINGZ.
Yeah.
Previously, it was Kristola. And I was always interested, what is the difference? Like, what is Flux going to offer that Kristola didn't? They did place better in Orlando than they had Kansas City, so technically for them, that is an improvement. I think Flux adds a lot of kind of brains to this team. I like the way he views a game of Halo, and I'm excited to see what he does in map number 2 here.
Well, we don't have to wait long, as we are loading into game number 2. Now JLINGZ would love to double their series lead here and put themselves on match point and just 1 series away from the World Championships. But on the other side of that stage, SSG will not be trying to go out with a candle in the wind here. They want to spark their tournament to life right here and really try and get into pools on the right foot. But it all starts here in game 2 to claw their way back into the series. And we're on board with that man, Quadios, the Englishman, who had such a fantastic game number 1. We're underway.
Just don't want to get carried away here if you are JLINGZ, right? Confidence is everything, but at the same time, you don't want silly confidence. You don't want unnecessary pushes. Push your advantages, absolutely, but don't just throw away a lead or throw away a situation just because you think you're better than the other team. Will say, though, Overshield going in favor of Space Station, a really positive start to this game.
Confidence, important. Complacency, not so much. Very important for JLINGZ to make sure one is true more than the other. And for Morgan, backing down now. Just 1 shot will put him in the grave. Picks himself up the pulse carbine, and that can shred shields. I've seen bots do some serious damage. I'm telling you, I'm terrified of them.
Honestly, if a bot has anything but a battle rifle, I will retreat. If they have a battle rifle, then I'll take them on. Very different if you play actual players, though it seems to be the other way around for me in matchmaking. But already we can see this game is slowing down. A bit more respect being shown by both teams, but tapping buttons, happily jumping out, gets the help, but he was not fearing that player whatsoever.
There's the occasion now starting to dawn on these 2 teams, recognizing they're so close. And that is why we're seeing such a slow, methodical pace here to Catalyst, which some teams like to play a little bit differently. Some like to go frantic and push one side and flood others. We've seen other teams see success slowing things down, getting a pick here, almost guerrilla warfare tactics. But right here, right now, both these teams really starting to feel they're so close. And how they want to do it in 2 and not be forced down to that elimination bracket. The score is so close between these 2 teams, much as the flag game was. There's very little to separate them.
I'll be honest, I don't think any team has really found a way to play Catalyst Slayer, and I'm talking all the way to your Optic Gamings, your FaZe, all the way down to now JLINGZ and Space Station. Like, it's such a tough map to try and navigate. It's very much about thinking on the fly and assessing what your opponents do. The only team actually I feel like has truly managed to knuckle down on it is G1. Like, they have been just a dominant team on Catalyst. So I think if you're going to watch back anything, if you are a team studying others, then go and watch what G1 do, and maybe you can implement that into your game. At the moment, JLINGZ have a narrow lead after a difficult start.
I have figured out what G1 do really well on Catalyst Slayer.
What's that?
They get the 50 kills before the other team.
Clever, and a great way to try and approach a game. I would be concerned if other teams are not doing that. If other teams are saying, guys, all we need to do is get to 40, then they probably shouldn't be at the World Championships.
Well, 2 dead here. And JLINGZ really starting to go up through the gears. I would love to get an Astro listening to see exactly what they're saying to each other.
Do you push me?
Watching it. Tapping's weak.
I'm one.
There's 2, there's 2.
Can you bait me?
Nice. Tapping's up there. 2 there, 2 more there.
Yeah, that's it. All the way in the back of the flag.
I got scared, yeah.
Nice, I'm watching you underneath here.
Watch how it's scared.
One's going main door. Watch main door.
Weak that high hole.
Main door, yeah. That's her.
Come on, one shot. Go on.
Nice.
One spikes. No good.
Yeah, one on me.
I can switch. He's pushing, this guy's pushing. Free here.
Play left. One shot, hard left, drift pushing you up underneath.
Nice. There was another.
More behind.
Yeah, don't go. I'm on.
Absolute, mate.
Back up if you can.
One.
Nice. You still there?
Got the push.
Yeah, it was stopping.
2 more, backing up.
Good up.
Yeah, you just
Give
run,
up,
run.
give up, yeah.
Yeah, let's wrap.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
15 seconds away.
Going
Yeah,
green,
yeah.
I'm going green.
I got skewer, guys. Let me make a pick.
Okay, we're all good.
Yo, I have
I
combo.
have
I have
Full
combo.
squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
I'm gonna go spike.
Done them all, guys. Done them
Got
all.
one main ramp on me. There's 2 on my 5.
No, quick.
One's
No,
main ramp,
one
one's
shot.
back 5.
West is up, boys.
I can look at
Shot
the
the
back
Mohawk,
5 guys.
One is spike. Bryce the spikes, Hams.
My main ramp.
I got one, guys. I got niggas.
Main ramp and top 5.
One shot, then spikes.
Push
again.
in top here.
I heard spikes. Spikes. Other side, Hams. Other side, your
Hard
side.
pushing, hard pushing.
Dead.
Nice, Hams. I can go this way.
So I'm
Okay,
looking.
beat.
Go for this. I got it.
Spike's weak. The main ramp weak. Tapping.
And a great insight to the communication of JLINGZ as they start to create more of a gap here, more of a lead. I heard a lot of Flux talking as well. When I look at what does Flux add, it does seem like a lot of communication coming from his side. He knows exactly how he wants to play the game and also trying to incorporate that to the rest of the team.
Something to notice is the composure showed in the comms. Not getting ahead of themselves, not frantic in the communication, knowing how big this series is. Keeping things nice and relaxed, nice and cool. I suppose it's easier to do that when you're winning. And for tapping buttons, they have it all to do here in game number 2.
JLINGZ were very confident coming into the series. I spoke to them yesterday and I said, well, you know, you beat him in Orlando, but in Orlando, Nugget was kind of new. And they were like, yeah, but they had enough practice with him to be good enough to take on another team. They didn't see that as an excuse. So now they were going into this series saying this is no different to Orlando. We're playing exactly the same team. We know how to beat them. And clearly they are finding a way to do exactly what they did in Orlando, if not better than they did. These games are not as close as they were. Or sorry, this Slayer is not as close as it was previously. But we also have to remember on the other side, this is Space Station's worst map from Orlando. They should be losing this when you look at the series layout. The concerning thing is their best map is map number 5. You've got to get there.
The way these first 2 games have gone, so far anyway at least, it's not looking good for SSG to make it to that game 5. Can Drift have an influence on this Slayer? JLINGZ being very clever here, slowing the game down.
I will say that Drift actually has been the main Slayer for Space Station since Orlando. You'd think it would always be tapping buttons. All we talk about is tapping buttons this, tapping buttons that. And don't get me wrong, tapping buttons, fantastic player, but Drift needs the credit where it's due. He was the main Slayer. He statistically was getting the most kills and the best KDA from Orlando as well. So if someone's going to pull them back into it, I feel like Drift has to start leading that charge. He needs to find that same form.
That's with the overshield. Could this be the catalyst then to propel them forward? A couple of kills have been traded here and there. Septic and tapping buttons, they get eliminated. Still a comfortable lead for JLINGZ. What SSG need desperately is a clean 4 dead without giving up any numbers so they can get map control, but every single time they look to close the gap and close the distance, JLINGZ get those trades. And there it is again, 2 for 2. And all the live long day, JLINGZ will love this.
And you got to imagine that if you can go 2-0 up in this series, like a crazy amount of confidence going into map number 3 and onward, and knowing you are even closer to that World Championship. As a reminder, this is just the play-ins for the World Championships. They will begin tomorrow, but we have 8 teams competing to try and get 4 spots in the World Championships as Quad manages to get a triple.
Triple kill for Quadios to add to his already impressive tally of 14, 2 and 8. The man is turning up here in the play-ins and looking to carry that momentum and drive this team forward.
Yeah, he had an amazing map number 1, and it seems like he's carrying on that heat here into map number 2 and shutting down Space Station no matter what corner they seem to turn. And you'd imagine with a 10-kill difference now between these 2 teams, this is not going to be easy for Space Station to get back into. I've seen some crazy comebacks, but you look at the way JLINGZ are controlling the map, Space Station can't seem to get anywhere without being shut down.
Every single time we switch to Quadios' POV, the man's picking up another triple kill. 4 dead for SSG, and you're right, because SSG, every single time they're in a gun engagement, they're stuck in their base. They can't get out.
It's collapse after collapse from JLINGZ. They see the spawn, they set their targets on just collapsing from both sides. It's a very successful pinch, and time again, Space Station cannot find an answer.
41 to 31. Tapping buttons has got a double kill, but Septic will get that trade. 2 for 2 again. The lead stands at 11. JLINGZ require 7 to double their series lead.
And if they carry on playing this way, it should not take too long. You've got 3 minutes 23 on the clock. You could slow the game down if you want, but you don't want to invite Space Station back into this game. carry on with the same pace, carry on with the same confidence. Only if the game starts to shift towards Space Station, that's when you maybe think about changing the pace slightly.
All that's required is 7. JLINGZ have been doing absolutely everything they need to. Positioned perfectly here to secure the second map win of the series. Quadios, Spider-Man's his way out of danger, but is getting tagged up in the back once more. Still somehow alive and kicking here. Makes it a really awkward fight for Tapping Buttons, who does get the job done eventually, but the trades once more, 2 for 2, and 4 kills required now for JLINGZ.
One more push could be enough just to send them 2-0 up in this series. You can see Quad still being careful, despite the fact he's got 19 kills at the moment. Cannot make it 20. A couple of kills going in favor of Space Station. They are slowly but surely crawling back into it. But you'd have to imagine it's a little bit too late.
JLINGZ has been methodical here, really tearing down SSG, and Nugget could be the latest victim and the last victim, as JLINGZ do secure game number 2, and they're 1 game away then from being 1 series away from the World Championship.
At 1 step closer, 1 foot in the door, you may say. As for Space Station, frustration maybe starts to kick in a little bit. They would have been feeling confident coming into the series with the scrim results that have been happening, how they've been playing leading up to the event, a little bit more practice with Nugget, to then be shut down in that manner in game number 2. All that confidence gets stripped away, and the way JLINGZ were collapsing was, I mean, incredible, and hats off to Quadios. If I had a hat, I'd take it off and kind of throw it at him. I wouldn't distract him, because it's quite far. It's a big throw. It's a big throw from here. But 19 kills, almost 20. I mean, he might have got a 20 if I didn't see it at the end, but genuinely, that's not a performance I would expect from Quadios this early on in the tournament. Sometimes he takes a little bit longer to heat up, but he seems to be heating up very early indeed.
And you expect to see this sort of performance if you're playing against an AM team, but to put in 19 kills against the reigning champions in the LATAM region, that is a different level of performance that you're not expecting. Yeah,
this LATAM team, you know, this Space Station roster is not an easy game whatsoever. There's confirmation it was 19 kills. You're right, for Quadios in the end. That is going to do so much wonders for them as they move on and they play the North American teams in this bracket, for example, or if they were to face, you know, Ascend, if that were to happen as well. Obviously, they're on different sides of the bracket right now, and then if they did get into the World Championships, they are going to be full of everything, knowing that they can go in and actually, they'll feel like they can take on the world after performances like this. I will say, though, on the other side, it starts to get very worrying for Space Station, because if they're not able to, you know, get anything here in map number 2, if they're not even able to get close, you're going into a game you've just lost against this team in Orlando. JLINGZ know they can beat them here. JLINGZ know they can 3-0 them now. So Space Station need to find something else. And unfortunately, you've got to be looking around and someone has to step up.
It is worth shaping the narrative, right? That in Orlando, it was SSG who had a 247 to 200 nod lead. And they opened the door. They made that mistake to allow JLINGZ back in. Is it a situation now where they possibly learned from those mistakes because things were going so well in that game, they almost went to a game 5? Is this maybe perhaps a sleeper map for them where they think we can make the adjustments that were required? I
mean, I have it on good authority that JLINGZ just wanted to make it interesting.
Yes.
They wanted to try and just make it entertaining for the fans. That's what I heard anyway from JLINGZ, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true.
It was a direct quote, actually.
It was a direct quote. But I do think that Stronghold's Live Fire is such a difficult map to try and navigate when you are ahead, because sometimes teams will find a way just to kind of break that setup and then suddenly they've got the control as well, and that's what JLINGZ did so successfully, in Orlando. So I think if you are Space Station, you can't afford to only have like a 20 to 30 point lead going into that final set of the game. You need to be having a 60+ lead. You need to have that little bit of a buffer, that little bit of a cushion to fall back on. Otherwise, JLINGZ will punish you.
There's an issue that we have, is that there's nobody I can point to on SSG that I think has been playing particularly poorly. Perhaps it's time for all 4 of these players to take a good hard look at themselves heading into game 3 here. Because it's do or die in this game, or they'll be heading down to the elimination bracket and then are just 1 series away from not making it to World Championships at all. And we're on board with Quadios once more. He's been having a fantastic series. Why not close it out here?
I mean, in theory, they still could make the World Championships. There's still the elimination bracket. They might get there, but it's not looking great. It's not looking good when you're already losing in the winners bracket to one of the teams who you could argue weaker out of the region. They're definitely not as good as Ascend or haven't been leading up to this tournament, but from what I've seen, it seems like JLINGZ have really spruced things up coming into this event from Orlando. They seem to have changed a lot of their approach of the game And genuinely, Quadios looks like a different player. And that is one of the most exciting things that I could have said so far in this tournament.
JLINGZ have started off nice and early here with 2 strongholds to the name, already scoring 25 points and climbing, excuse me. Fluent in many languages. It's English and gibberish. I do struggle at times, but now it's tapping buttons. Who is stepping into the hill and has secured A and B for his team, and they will now start to close the gap very quickly after JLINGZ extended their lead to 30.
Is gibberish the official name of the Irish
Yes, it's
language?
Actually, see, it's Jib and then Irish.
Jib Irish, yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. I do have to often translate for you in Ubers whilst we are in the United States of America. Space Station are starting to put some more points back on the board though, but JLINGZ off spawn are still able to steal B away, it would seem. Look at them darting towards it to try and stop this. That is a fantastic reset, and it was Drift who led the charge.
Morgan looking to make an influence here on the B stronghold, but ultimately taken down by 2 members of SSG. Lovely bait and switch coming out of them. They're starting to play some decent Halo now. And already taking the lead in this game. It's 2 strongholds, B and C, in favor of SSG. And JLINGZ on the back foot here, trying to fight out of the garage. Overshield has just popped up, and it's Drift who's managed to get himself involved and secure, lock it into his chest, and now they're starting to apply the pressure on A.
You don't want to allow Drift to start to heat up here. And whilst I was talking about in the pre-game, you know, JLINGZ know they can win this. You got to imagine the flip side. Space Station know how close they were to winning this. They know they've managed to get 247 points. You just need 3 more as Quadios will take the challenge. It's going to be a triple. Is it going to be more as Drift, unfortunately, will not be able to get the 4th, but it is still total control here for Space Station Gaming.
You just know his teammates were screaming back down to Morgan there. Killing spree for Drift. He's got the handbrake up, and he's going full Tokyo with back-to-back triple kills.
Not what you want to see if you're a fan of JLINGZ, a fan of European Halo, is any of these SSG boys start to heat up. Already a commanding lead now. JLINGZ falling behind on the scoreboard, not able to get any strongholds right now. They're stuck bottom mid, they're stuck at tower. They need to just win 1 engagement and try and wrestle back some control.
JLINGZ desperately need the first pick, but they're down in numbers every time. They've gotten it now, but it's vital that Morgan stays alive, unable to do so. The sniper rifle pops up, and Atso threatens to go bottom middle, and he's taking the bait. How's that JLINGZ player? The melee comes through, and all of a sudden, Space Station are firing all cylinders. Body shot connects the Flux, and he goes down.
This is incredible from Space Station. You thought they might be down and out after 2-0. But Atso, the player who had the most power weapon kills in Orlando for this roster, and you can see why. He likes the sniper rifle. He'll pick up the rockets. He'll do the work that's required of him. And right now, JLINGZ do not have an answer.
Atso made me go full Ric Flair there for a moment. I'm glad he stopped because I didn't know where it would end. But Drift, he was the catalyst to propel the team forward. That is why they're seeing such success here in game number 3. And he opens the door once more. Quadios gets taken down. 2 members of JLINGZ positioned over towards Nest here. And they handle Drift with a bait and switch. But it's vitally important that JLINGZ can shut down SSG because they're so close to losing this game.
I mean, we saw a comeback in Orlando, but this would be something else of a comeback. We've not seen anything like this. Space Station still in control. Septic, the last remaining player. This one looks like it is done and dusted. Space Station only 1 point away now.
And it's Atso who jumps in, desperately tries to stay alive, but unable to do so. But now it's for Quad to try and stop it, but unable to do so. And it's 250 to 30, and SSG completely flipped the script here.
Wow. Honestly incredible. I said, you've got to look around, you've got to look at each other. Who's going to step up? Every single individual on that Space Station team did step up when they needed to. A great way of just penetrating that momentum that JLINGZ seemed to be carrying into game number 3. And maybe it is one of the cases of them playing the game type against them in Orlando, being able to study it. The only game type actually they were able to study that they had played previously. And it does seem like Space Station did better research when it came to that map.
I will just say, I said Quadrant when I seen Quad, and I missed them. Everything makes me think of them.
I think we all wanted them to be here.
Yeah.
It's sad that Quadrant aren't after the year they've had, but we have to focus on who is here, and that is JLINGZ. And
yeah.
I tell you what, I thought they were going to be 1 step closer to the World Championships. Remember, this is just the play-ins today. 8 teams trying to make their way into the World Championships. Only 4 can do so, and this is just winners bracket round 1, so we have plenty of action coming your way.
Plenty of action still to come, and particularly in this series, score currently sitting at 2-1 in favor of JLINGZ, but there's winning a game of strongholds, but what we just seen was a complete blowout for SSG, and all of a sudden this series is blown wide open.
Yeah, you'd think that Space Station would have just kind of rolled over, showed their belly, and been like, all right, we'll focus on the elimination bracket. But 250-30 is an absolute demolition from the Space Station roster. And I wouldn't be surprised if JLINGZ want to take a little bit of a water break after that one. Maybe a bathroom break just to try and reset the mentals as we go into King of the Hill streets. Now, Strongholds and King of the Hill can sometimes be compared as similar in a way, but can also very much play very differently depending on how you want to approach those games. But what we mentioned right at the start of this series, if you are JLINGZ, you do not want to go to Game 5. They have to get it done here in Game number 4.
And with Game 4 being Streets King of the Hill, is there anything you can tell me that will tip the balance in either team's favor? Who do you fancy heading into this one?
You know, after what I've just seen from Space Station, I'm thinking it could be Space Station taking us to a Game 5. The way they were able to control the entirety of the map, they were constantly able to force JLINGZ back onto spawn and not allow JLINGZ to get that first pick. If they can have the same kind of strength with their setups here on Streets King of the Hill, there is no reason why we shouldn't go to a Game 5. The bigger question is, what can JLINGZ actually do to break those setups, or can JLINGZ be the team to initially take that lead? Because if JLINGZ do go ahead, we've already seen Space Station struggle to get back into the game. It's when Space Station are leading when they're in their very best.
Right then. The stage is set. Game 4. King of the Hill Streets. JLINGZ need one more map win to push themselves ever closer to the World Championships tomorrow. And for SSG, they showed far more than just signs of life. They've proved that they can hang with the big dogs here. And we're underway once more through the eyes and ears of Quadios as that drop shields tip-taps its way down the street. But it doesn't matter. Bulldog to the back and a melee to the spine. Double kill. And Quadios was trying to start this game off with a bang.
Yeah, almost managed to get a triple there. Probably wondering where the rest of the team was after he got so much aggression. No point scored towards the first hill at the moment. Both teams showing a lot of respect, just trying to get control of these power weapons first before they start going for any sort of real push.
Quadios then trying to settle the team's nerves. Game 3 did not go according to plan at all. Tires is the point of engagement, gets one, locks in two, and he's just making the difference every single time we jump on his POV.
Very silly push there from Space Station as well. They know better than that, just to hurl yourself into Tires. You've got to be a bit more strategical with your approach, but they are trying to flood JLINGZ, and eventually they are able to force JLINGZ out of that hill. Morga will back off, wait for a little bit of assistance before he rejoins the battle.
It's a 4v4 on the map at the moment. First pick is going to be vital. JLINGZ got enough points on the board there to almost secure their first hill. They can do a similar thing again. They will go 1-0 up, but all of a sudden SSG are flirting to get right back into things, and they're closing the gap very, very quickly. Quadios with the commando in his hand. Up the driveway, he tip-taps. And SSG have stepped out for a moment, and at their own peril as Quadios fires some beautiful shots at the commando to the dome of Nugget, and Drift follows him very quickly thereafter. It's tapping buttons. All alone in red, isolated now is Atso. And the arcade is being cleared out. And JLINGZ take control once more.
Seems to be a little bit better for JLINGZ, the fact they only have to really focus on kind of one objective, one hill. There isn't 3 strongholds to worry about in the previous. Another double kill for Quad. He seems far more comfortable on this map, and he seems to be playing the same way he did in map number 1 and 2. He was the difference maker in those opening 2 maps, but didn't really come to life in map number 3. But now JLINGZ have answered back. They do find themselves 1-0 up here on Streets King of the Hill.
I feared for a moment when I seen Quadio step out of the hill and almost jump over that banisters. I thought he thought it was there. He thought it was secured, and it wasn't. It was still to be done, and he picked up the final points. Rocket launcher, though, in Septic's hands, patrolling and rolling. Gets one. One more in the chamber to take care of business. Perhaps it'll be fired back, Tram, and indeed it does. Doesn't need to connect in the end, as Morgan gets the job done instead with that stalker rifle. Bulldog in hand, and it's JLINGZ really controlling the sandbox here.
Some may say it's a wasted rocket, those some would be me. But it doesn't matter, because he's got a Bulldog, and arguably a better weapon anyway in the right hands, and Septic's going to look to try and get up close and personal now with anyone who wants to join him in Tram. And JLINGZ are set up to go 2-0 up here. A very difficult hill to break at times. You've got to know your jump up towards back Tram, and unfortunately the Bulldog not biting like it should.
It only had one tooth left, and it was dislodged, and after that, Septic didn't realize that there was a gummy Bulldog in the end. And that will not bite hard at all. And that's so gets a trade, 2v2 on the map for a moment. Flux sets his sights on tapping buttons and taps his right trigger enough times to secure a kill for his team. Drift, last man standing, currently sitting at 3, 4, and 5 in his kills category, assists and deaths. Looking at JLINGZ then, have controlled the map for large portions here. They've got control of Tram. Bulldog will fire once more, but Morga gives up his death a little bit too easy there.
Yeah, it's unfortunately twice where the Bulldog hasn't made the difference, where perhaps it could have if you were just that 1 centimeter closer and the bullets hit a little bit harder. And now Space Station are able to control this hill. Now they have all the goodies, but the good sign for JLINGZ is rockets are coming up. The perfect way to break this setup. And look at the push. You saw the overhead there. You saw the players are going to be pushing through. Rockets will be grabbed, but Drift says, you know what? Screw your rockets. I want to take down every member of this team.
You don't need rockets when you've got a Bulldog in the back. Rockets, though, descending on back Tram.
Nice.
One is secured at so. JLINGZ starting to punch a hole now in SSG's defense here, back Tram. And they recognize and respect the rockets are in paradise now. One goes down, 2 find a home now for those rockets. Used expertly, 3 dead for SSG, and that is perfect halo out of JLINGZ.
Yeah, just to rewind very quickly, that first rocket from Morga was great. He feared he was going to die, so he wanted to get rid of one rocket, but also predicting where that player was going to be. I know it's a very easy thing to do, but sometimes people would not have fired a rocket there just because they weren't quite sure and they didn't want to waste it. Am I going to die? But now JLINGZ very close to going 2-0 up.
SSG is starting to form a push of their own, and it's been successful. All 4 dead now for JLINGZ, and although they somehow managed to punch a hole with those rockets and got into a position to secure hill number 2, SSG made it a very difficult task in the end, and now they're just on the cusp of tying us up here, and they do. 1-1 here in game 4.
Yeah, JLINGZ had a decision to make there. Do we just kind of set up for the next, or do we try and make for one last desperate push? In the end, they did stay on this tower side of the map for the next hill, but not necessarily able to set up for it. They haven't immediately started scoring. They are going to have to deal with a few stragglers that were able to escape the Tram. And already that first bit goes to Space Station. JLINGZ having to back off a little bit. Morga struggling to stay alive.
He has done so, though, for the moment. 1 left standing. It's going to be Nugget. Bulldog out the back pocket, and that will secure the kill. And now Morgan is looking to tiptoe in and start to secure some of the first points now for JLINGZ, but he gets forced out of the hill immediately by tapping buttons. They're getting the kills that they need to, but they're not getting the score on the board.
Really not able to just get someone in and really get a proper setup on the go, and that's good from Space Station. You've got to keep applying this pressure, keep JLINGZ awkward, and 3 are dead now on that red side. And if they can find that last remaining player and stop the spawns from happening, Space Station could be the first team actually to set up in this hill.
Making it really difficult there, SSG. Ensuring that if they're going to get points, JLINGZ, they're going to do it the hard way. And after all that, all those engagements, the back and forth, it's SSG who start to score some significant points now on this statue hill.
Thought that was G8.
G8, maybe.
Thought it was G8.
He's in trouble.
Not any official trouble, though, it may be said. The Bulldog dropped, and the VR shots will go into the brain, but Quad will also do exactly the same on the other side. JLINGZ going for another attempted kind of pinch, trying to push from both sides. It could actually end up working out for them. Space Station down to just 1 remaining player, and Flux again fighting for his life.
But they delayed the push once more, have SSG. When JLINGZ get those kills, they're not able to capitalize on them, and again, 2 go down for JLINGZ, and making this so difficult are SSG for JLINGZ, and they're now breathing down the neck, and they're now about to take the lead.
And you've got to look at the clock as well, right? This has taken a long time to get these first few hills on the go. Very little time once Space Station do get this second point on the board. You have to imagine they will do so. No one from JLINGZ to contest it. A 2-1 lead. Space Station now will be ahead. And what did I say? Space Station, as long as they are ahead, they will be feeling far better, far more confident. Again, JLINGZ find themselves 3 dead. Space Station are looking to try and take this to a game 5.
This is a different Space Station team entirely that we've seen from game 1 and 2. They're prepared to make this fight ugly. It's a brawl. It's a war. And they're scrapping. 2-1 the score in this game. 2 go down, though, for SSG. And is this the opportunity for JLINGZ to close the distance? Flux combines, and Septic now with the Stalker Rifle, applying pressure. He's in the perfect spot to pick up that kill onto Drift, sitting front base now. And Nugget will have the same fate. Atso in Tram, but Septic knows that's exactly where he needs to be.
Space Station have been far better at getting kind of scrappy time. You saw there was only one member remaining on the Space Station side as Atto wins that fight, and suddenly I hear Space Station get a little bit more loud with their callouts as well, but you still have to get JLINGZ out of this hill.
Still a lot of work to do then. And they've done it so successfully here. Bulldog again, but it's firing from a distance. It's not doing the damage that is needed. And we're pretty level on score here on this fourth hill. These next few gun engagements are going to be pivotal in tipping the balance one way or the other. But it's SSG who hold control. They're holding what they have. Quadios has gotten taken care of. Drift gets traded out, but they continue to score. And SSG double the lead, 3-1.
This is bad news for JLINGZ, because you know where that hill goes now. It's bottom middle. The hardest hill to get a point from, especially when a team has a 2-hill
base layer to run the clock, to play dirty, to pick up some of those angles to ensure that JLINGZ can't get comfortable points on the board. And a killing spree for Morgan, but it's not mattering too much at the moment.
So tough here for JLINGZ now, because they have to try and fight their way into the hill, but they also have to fight against Space Station away from those power positions, like Tower, for example. You can see how Space Station are controlling it, just keeping JLINGZ out of the hill. They are prison guards at the moment, looking down from above, and unfortunately, JLINGZ are not able to get any sort of jailbreak.
Being kept at arm's length here. About 40 seconds on the clock. Writing's on the wall here for a game 5. And SSG have deserved this. After the
10 seconds left, it's looking very likely where we're heading. 3 are dead for JLINGZ. Space Station paroling around the map. Morgan, a last-ditch attempt to try and stay alive. No one's in the hill. Space Station win game number 4. 2-2, we're going to game 5.
Well, well, well. That reverse sweep is on the cards, and momentum well and truly with the LATAM Kings in SSG. And JLINGZ now, mentally, they could be in the wrong headspace altogether.
You asked me about keys to victory, and I said avoid recharge, avoid game 5, and that's exactly where we're going for the Slayer, to try and decide this series, to try and decide who is going to be progressing into winners bracket round 2 of this play-in competition, and why they still could be a team that gets to the Halo World Championships.
Well, after game 2, we spoke about how they were feeling confident, and we warned against complacency, and perhaps that is something we see, but SSG, all credit to them, they really started to apply the pressure, and they were dictating the pace of the game. And with now game 5 on the horizon, you called after game 4 with how much of a blowout and how dominant it was in SSG's favor, that perhaps JLINGZ should take a bathroom break just to take some of the heat out of the series, and that's what we're seeing employed now.
And I mean, you look at those stats, it's not like they got heavily outslayed, did JLINGZ, but it was just the way that Space Station were navigating their hill control. Tapping buttons at one point was in a 1 versus 4 and got what felt like about 10 seconds of hill time. Just shouldn't be happening. Excuse me, you need to be quicker at taking those players out.
Talk about how those two game types can be played very similarly. They can shake out somewhat the same, and that is exactly what we've seen.
And it's worrying times for JLINGZ and for Europe in general, and it's on the side of Space Station Gaming. It's not like JLINGZ don't know how to play it, right? I could have a statistic that said, oh, JLINGZ, you know, they're terrible at this, and they're not going to be able to do any sort of job. Like, they know what they're doing. Even though they didn't have the best of times in Orlando, they didn't win Recharge in Orlando, you got to look at the teams they faced on Recharge. They didn't actually go up against any of the kind of teams at their caliber. They were losing to like the kind of top 4, top 6 teams on Recharge. What did they learn from those teams? Have they analyzed it? Have they done their research? This game 5, though, is going to come down to, I think, who's got more confidence on that stage. Because we can talk all about research and prep, but that kind of goes out the window when you get to these pressure moments, these clutch moments in game 5s.
Well, something I know is Beauty and the Beast is a tale as old as time. And we're seeing a European story that we've seen time and time again. It's not a classic by any means. I don't want to keep watching it. Disney haven't got the rights to it. But all of a sudden, Netflix might buy the rights to it. I don't know. They love to buy all sorts of things. But for game 5, you speak about how confidence is going to play a massive factor. There's nowhere you can look other than SSG after those last 2 games.
Yeah, I think that SSG, it screams they are going to win this game 5 just with how momentum is on their side now. I would have been thinking game 3 was going to go in favor of JLINGZ, and JLINGZ were going to 3-0 this series, but then right at the very start, when we saw the kind of kills being exchanged in those first moments, SSG looked completely different than they did from games 1 and 2. Like, they were being more clinical with their pushes. They were making sure they were eliminating that final member. They weren't allowing him to get away. And if they can do the same here in Recharge Slayer, then this is going to be a series that goes in favor of Space Station Gaming. What JLINGZ have to do is find that same kind of form they had in Catalyst Slayer, right?
Yeah.
Where they were constantly just puncturing the other team's defense, where they were constantly just separating them and forcing them back into their base. It's not as easy to do on Recharge as it is Catalyst, but you can find a way to do it.
And something that we've seen in games 3 and 4 was SSG really controlling the sandbox better than they had any time before that. And I think this is going to be one of those moments in the game where they talk about Recharge, and we talked to Morgan 12. They said they want to get the shock rifle out of the likes of Drift's hands because he is terrifying with it.
Well, Recharge Slayer is where we're going to be at. You saw the sword on your screen, it's GA, but we've already seen one GA broken already,
Yeah,
so
why not?
who knows what's going to happen in this series. But I'm excited for this one. I'm excited to see who is really going to take this game by the scruff of the neck, because Space Station now will be feeling on top of the world.
Will it be the LATAM Kings or the European Jesters then that get the victory here and put themselves in the driving seat of making it to the World Championships? 2-1 the score right off the bat. 2-2 all tied up. It's going to be cagey, it's going to be nervy. Both these teams know just how important these next few kills are going to be.
It's about getting map control early, about getting a little lead as well, just to make your opposition squirm that little bit. If Space Station can get a 5 or 6 kill lead, just think about what that's going to do to JLINGZ. They're going to start to worry. They're going to start to think about that reverse sweep. And as soon as you are thinking about the reverse sweep, your mental's not in the right place. Suddenly your shot's not going to be as good. This is going to be a tough game for JLINGZ. They need to constantly stay neck and neck. They cannot afford to go behind.
3 go down, make it 4. Team is going to be on staggered spawns. Engagement's continuing to go down. Quadios tries to get tower control, but he's in a tough spot. Tap-in buttons, thought about reloading, but will settle for the trade instead. And that's exactly what the doctor ordered, considering the situation that he'd found himself in there for a moment. Could have been a bit messy. And he ensures the score stays neck and neck here. It's a bait and switch though for JLINGZ. 2 members slide out and all of a sudden they get 3 kills in their favor, and maybe the tide is starting to turn.
Something we were not seeing as much in games 3 and 4 was JLINGZ kind of pushing as a unit, getting those bait and switches on go. Like, even if you're pushing as a 2, just make sure that you are finishing off that player. Don't allow them to escape, and don't allow them to kind of run rings around you so that they can run you towards their teammates. And now Space Station are going to be forced to just try and survive here at the moment. They have been kind of pegged back over towards long haul, but JLINGZ have to make this count. They know exactly where the players are, so make sure you're watching the right areas and using those grenades to your best advantage.
Ato's all alone in tower. Quadios is giving that information across, and he gets taken care of. 2 members go down. You've seen what SSG were trying to do, make a coordinated push through long haul, but they've been food and drink into the hands of JLINGZ. They have gone. Here we go. 14 kills to 10. Here comes the collapse now, and it's Septic who has that shock rifle. We've seen him clock in and go to work with this thing in the past. And Nugget last man standing for a moment. All the kills starting to go in favor once more. They're not interested in keeping it close. They have a 7-kill advantage.
Well, they wanted to keep the shock rifle out of Space Station hands. What's the best way to do it? Have it in your own hands. And I mentioned him before, Septic knows exactly how to use this weapon. His reticle placement is insane when it comes to the shock rifle, and he is putting it to work. JLINGZ now starting to get a very commanding lead, and it looks like they're finally coming back to life in this series.
Didn't need to find the head, but he did so anyway. Style points. Septic gets 1 more. 21 kills to 11, and now all of a sudden they can start to believe again. The comms have to come through. Let's not get reverse swept here. That's not to be our destiny. Septic holding that angle. You spoke about his crosshair placement. He's finally shut down though, and is this the opportunity for SSG to get their hands on that weapon and start to go to work? Morgan will back down Nugget here, who desperately tried to stay alive in the elevator, pushing that button, but it was not ascending to safety.
Space Station are aim starts. Like the LATAM region has been full of aim starts for years in Halo history. You don't want to give them the shock rifle. You don't want to allow them to have that freedom to just wander around the map and start ripping faces. So I like the pressure from JLINGZ at the moment. They know where that shock rifle is, and they're not allowing there to be any sort of setup from SSG.
A significant lead has been mounted here. 8 kills to be exact. The melee comes through but doesn't connect. Melee is the box instead. A little bit messy, a little bit scrappy, but JLINGZ will be happy enough with that. As long as they can maintain control here and keep that lead that they have. They've worked hard for it. And SSG are desperately trying to claw back.
And this would be quite the comeback from Space Station if they are able to get back in this game. Now it's actually only 6 kills. At one point it was 9, if not 10. And JLINGZ need to just stay a good amount away from SSG. Don't allow them too close in the game. 5 kills is fine. 4 kills gets a little bit more scary. Camouflage in the hands of Space Station. And if they get 2 or 3 more kills, suddenly they're right back into this, and JLINGZ will be left scratching their heads, saying, how do we allow that to happen?
And you see Atso gets trades. Camouflage did dissipate, but he carved up the map enough for his team as Flux gets 1 more kill. 2 dead for Space Station. Gets a 2v2 on the map, tries desperately to get the trade, and he does Quadios. He's been the difference maker in the first 2 games, and he's already on 9 kills for the day here in game 5. And it's Tapping Buttons on the other side, who's been a real force in this game 5. 11 kills and 6 deaths with the 1 assist to his name. And this score is much closer than it was before.
Space Station did get their hands on the shock rifle briefly, but now Morga has picked it up off the floor. If I was Morga, I'd be thinking about getting my body close to the edge of the map so that it will fall as Quadios picks up a double kill on the end of it. Knows there's a 3rd player around, hurls himself off the map in the end towards the sword, but it does cause Space Station and the players to also, for some reason, follow him. My mum used to say, if they jumped off a cliff, would you follow them as well? Apparently, Space Station will follow JLINGZ wherever.
Desperately trying to get those kills that they're willing to put their own bodies on the line. No armband supplied by HCS, so those Spartans are not going to be swimming. The only swimming they're doing is with the fishes, and it's now 37-30 in favor of JLINGZ. Set up over towards tower, slowing things down for a moment, but Tapping Buttons has got his hands on that shock rifle, immediately gets his attentions on him. All eyes turn, battle rifles fire upon him. Doesn't get taken down though, and Quadios has been picked here. Does this open the door for SSG to close the gap and maybe secure 3 more kills of their own? Shock rifle remains in the hand, yet to fire a bullet though just yet. Tapping Buttons not able to find the angles. Speaking
of eyes turning, members of Fnatic starting to appear behind us, keeping an eye on this series. Remember, if Fnatic win their game, they would play the winner of this for a spot in the World Championship. So they are very much invested, very much wondering who is going to make it through, and just keeping an eye on seeing how these 2 teams are playing. At the moment, it's JLINGZ still with a very commanding lead.
JLINGZ remain in the ascendancy. Flux drops down bottom middle. Quadios, who's been instrumental in all things that have been going well for JLINGZ so far. 2 members of JLINGZ have fallen though, and Drift will get eliminated by Septic. The experience of the Englishman to try and close out these final moments of this game. He's been here throughout many iterations of Halo, has Septic. That experience can be invaluable at times. Tapping Buttons with the shock rifle. First one will sizzle the shields. The battle rifle will get the job done in the end. 2 bursts will secure the kill. 3 go down for JLINGZ, and all of a sudden, SSG starting to apply the pressure.
Well, the time is now for Tapping Buttons. We spoke about the shock rifle, how important it could be for SSG's chances, and how Tapping Buttons wants to rewrite that narrative of just being, you know, the first player internationally joining an American team. He wants to be a part of a squad who were at the Halo World Championships here for Halo Infinite's first season. Still only 5 kills in it. Still JLINGZ leading, but still an opportunity for SSG to get back into this one. All they need is that opening break, and maybe it will come from Tapping Buttons and that shock rifle.
The difference remains 5. JLINGZ needs 6 to close out this game. 4 minutes and change on the clock. And the game has slowed down to a crawl here. And perhaps the camouflage that's just popped up out of the oven. It's fresh. And Septic, who looks like he turned his attentions to it. He has secured it. He's popped it into his chest. Worst case scenario, he gets the burn. He's managed to get there freely. Can he lock in the kill? No, he can't, but the damage has been done. The attention's returned. It's 46-40 now. Quadio secures with the help of Flux onto Tapping Buttons. They're 3 away from securing this game 5. And Space Station are reeling. They need to try and slow things down, play clever here. They can ill afford to give away any easy deaths. This game is on a knife's edge. JLINGZ require 3. Space Station needs 6. It's in the balance now. The pendulum is swinging. And SSG have almost fully retreated into pipes. The issue for them is they have to be the ones to push the pace. And they need to be the ones to make the plays. Because JLINGZ are choosing to have and to hold.
Sounded like something from church when I was 7. But I love it. 47 to 44. Have and hold. Do whatever you can. Break through. Pray to whoever you need to if you are SSG right now, but there is going to be kills going in favor of JLINGZ. They push in, and they will secure game number 5 and stop the reverse sweep. And they'll march on a little bit further in this bracket and get one step closer to those World Championships.
They get the job done. It wasn't pretty. As a matter of fact, it was ugly at times. And they got pushed to the very brink there at the end. They got that lead. That Game 5 Slayer was very much in keeping with the story of the series. You look really good at the start, and all of a sudden you allow SSG back into it. But this time they ensure reverse sweep is not on the cards.
And JLINGZ, who didn't win a single map of recharge back in Orlando, can get rid of that statistic, start to rewrite statistics now here at Worlds. And they can be maybe at the World Championships as well. Of course, remember, this is the play-ins. They are one step closer. They are now going to have to take on a team like perhaps Fnatic for a chance to be in pool play in the World Championships. But they're going to be delighted, the fact that they've just been able to get over the hurdle there, because when that was 2-2 going into Game 5, I think that we weren't the only ones thinking, oh god, Space Station are probably going to win this one.
And taking a look at the series layout, then confirmation of what we've seen. 3-2 Aquarius CTF, 50-39 Slayer on Catalyst, 2-0 we started out. And SSG roared back into it, 250-30 on Stronghold's Live Fire, 3-1 King of the Hill Streets, and it was set up for the reverse sweep and for the narrative for JLINGZ and for indeed Europe to start off on the wrong foot once more. But this time, JLINGZ, you spoke about needing to have that clutch factor, and they iced up.
They did ice up, and boy did they need it as well, because the games are only going to get tougher